So welcome to my first lesson on Unity version 6. Been using Unity about 15, 16 years. I've taught it at the middle, high school, and college level. Also taught it online. I was also one of the original 8 Unity ambassadors for the whole educational industry. So I'm quite familiar with it. I've been using it for a long time. Before that, I actually was one of the first 3 Autodesk 3D Studio Max dealers. I sold to Disney, Sony, and other companies. So we're going to go through just the basics with creating a project on this first lesson. And then we'll move into creating a project and programming it and putting materials on it, etc. So the first thing we have to do, of course, is install Unity. So you need to go to the Unity website and download and then install the Unity version. I'm using version 6. Okay. So when I taught, because I didn't have control of what versions I used 2.2. Now this is the Unity Hub. You're going to download the Unity Hub also. This is where you're going to create your projects, open your projects, etc. You don't open them directly. You use the Unity Hub. Let's go through that. So I'm using Hub 3.8. I think it's the most current version. If not, oh no, there it is. So I can actually restart and get to 3.15, but I'm not going to do that right now during my lesson. So once you get it, you want to make sure you see your installs. So when you install that Unity version, it should come up here, and you can actually use this to install also. But you want to make sure it's in here. It will show you the official releases, pre-releases, etc. So, but you want to make sure that you see your version here, and then these are the ones you're going to choose when you install Unity. So make sure you pick these when you do, or you can go back and add modules later. But I'm going to build in Windows. I have a Windows computer. I'm going to build the itch.io, etc. So I chose these, and I can add more later. So make sure you get these. This is a long-term solution. So I could have had 6.1, but that has not been officially tested. A lot of times if you get a version that's not been fully tested, it's not a long-term solution, you'll end up doing a lot of bug testing yourself. So I didn't. So this is the projects we're going to have. This is our installs. This is the learn. A lot of these lessons are a little bit old, but they do give you a chance to practice some programming and features, etc. So they're good. They're good to work through, and they're free. And this is the community where you can post questions and stuff like that. So they actually have a Unity forums too, and we'll go through that in the future. Okay, so once you have this installed, you're going to create a project so we can work on it. So when you create a project, and you can see I've already have these created now, let's go through what you're going to be looking at. First of all, if I create a new project, I need to choose the version. So I would be choosing Unity version 6.0. I don't want to choose this one. So if I create a new version, I'm going to choose that. So there's a couple things we need to look at before you just go create a new version. Then the template you're going to be using. Right now we're just going to start with a universal 3D game, because I'm going to create a 3D game, but you can see they actually have some learning templates you can put inside here, etc. So we'll go through those later, but you need to choose this. Don't let Unity choose it for you. You then need to, I don't want the template, so I wouldn't choose that. You need to give it a name. So give it a name. Don't let it name my project. Make sure you give it a name. Okay? We need to have that. And then you're going to put it somewhere. Don't just let it stick it wherever you want it to. create a folder inside your documents folder, whatever you want to call it, and that's where your game. You could call it Unity Games, except in my case, it's just called Unity. So make sure you do those 4 things: the version, the type of template you're going to use, a name, and then where you're going to put it, and then create the project. So I've already created a project. You can see I called it version 6, and it's using Unity 6.0. Now this project's going to open, so I'm going to bring it up there. So make sure that you open your projects with the hub, create your projects in the hub, and then give those 4 things correctly for you do. Okay, so this is my new project. Let me close this. So this is the Unity interface, and this is what we're going to be using to create a game. We have a scene view, a game view, animation, and we can add different views up here too, but these are the main ones. Now you can see when you create a new project and you have your sample scene, which is what it comes with, you're going to have a main camera, a directional light, and the global volume. That's what you're going to have inside your game. That's it. You're going to have your assets down here, and I've added a couple which we'll go through. And then you're going to have your inspector with your controls over here. So let's just create an object and take a look at this. So I'm going to go game object up here, 3D object, cube. All right. And I'm going to turn off my global volume. I can turn these off or on here. I don't need to see the global volume. So I've created a cube. You can see it has 3D with it. It has an X, Y, and Z value. And when I first started doing this a long time ago, these objects had to be rendered, a lot of them. So now with the new computers, the new technology, software, etc., we have instant rendering of any object we create. So the first thing I'm going to do is rename this, and let's just say I call it player. When you create an object, make sure you rename it. Do not let it just be called cube, etc. So when we look over here, we should be seeing player, wall, fence, whatever, not cube, circle, capsule. That means nothing to anybody. So always rename your object. We can see it has a X, Y, and Z position. I'm going to reset those so it's at 0, 0, 0. And this is where you're going to be using that math geometry class you never thought you would, because we do have X, Y, and Z here, and we're going to be using them. So if I scale it on the X, you can see it gets wide. If I scale it on the Y, you can see it gets tall. And if I scale it on the Z, it gets more depth. I know some 3D animation software do this opposite, especially the Z value. But with Unity, X is left and right, Y is up and down, and then the Z value goes in and out, forwards and backwards. So when I create something new, and I don't want to make this lesson too long because it's the first one, I always make sure I save a scene. So before we exit here, we're going to save a scene. Now you can see our AI navigation, and we can turn this off also if we want. But this shows us creating nav meshes, etc. We'll go through this in the future. This will let us actually create a surface where the player actually is moving, or enemies moving on its own. We sort of program it, and it uses artificial intelligence. Okay, so we've created a new lesson, new project. We've opened it up in Unity, and we have created an object inside our game. Now, let's go through this quick before we end the lesson. This is the scene, this is the game. So when I'm playing the game, that's all I'm doing. If I come over here and make changes in my inspector, while I'm in the game, nothing's going to happen. I cannot tell you the number of times that I had this happen in my classes, where the students would make all these changes and say, hey, nothing's happening. Well, yeah, they're in the game. A lot of programmers, designers, have this turn a different color when they do it. That way they make sure that they know they're in the game and they're not going to waste their time doing that. So make sure when we're building, we're in the scene. When we're playing, we're in the game. And if we start playing the game, make sure we turn it off. Don't leave it keep playing when we come back to the scene to build. Okay, so I'm going to save this before we end the lesson. So you can save the scene as many times as you want to. You can never do it too many times. However, you can do it, not do it, and then lose everything you have. So again, I cannot tell you the number of times in all of my classes where someone would come up to me and say, hey, Mr. G, I lost my work. The computer took my work. Someone erased my work. No, they just didn't save their work. So let's go through saving file, save as. Now, I put mine in the scenes folder. So I'm just going to type example, which I'll delete later. So I have saved that scene. Let's go look. So these are my scenes. I have a couple other ones I created before then. This is the sample scene. This is the one my students would come in and say, yeah, well, they didn't save anything. If you don't save a scene, you're going to get the sample scene, which again has the main camera, directional light, and global volume. So here's my example scene right here. Okay. Now, if I don't put it inside the scenes folder, and first of all, it can only go in these two folders. Do not try to go to your documents and put it somewhere else. It will not work. So this time I'm just going to type it in. I'm just going to type EX. So I still have it, but it's not in my scenes folder. And we want to keep this clean. So I would drag it to my scenes folder. But the basic way to do it is File, Save As, and then Scenes folder right here. Okay. All right, so that's lesson 1. Make sure you've installed the hub. Get Unity version. You don't have to get Unity version 6. You can get whatever version you want. The lessons will still work. I just wanted to use a newer version. And then create your first project. Make sure you know where it is, because you're going to be opening again from the hub. If you have a problem with it, you need to know where it is. Create a cube, save a scene, and then I'll see you in the next lesson.